Hi, everyone. Welcome to Magnetic Moments. I'm Stacy Kornhauser, and around here, we're going to celebrate how people connect. It could be a first date, it could be just people at work who just get along really well, or it could just be a boss and a coworker who really work well together, want to become business partners. Anything goes with us. So think of this as a funny reminder from the universe that you never know who you're going to meet when and what impact they'll have on your life. So with that, I've got Erin and Chris here. But before we get started with Erin and Chris's their first story of how they met and some of their magnetic moments, I want to tell you a little bit about how I met Erin, and I've had some, especially one key magnetic moment with her. For many, many years, I have been going on trips around the globe. I've been to every continent actually with your company, Erin. So I've had awesome, great fun times. And I will say that it's really Erin, your mom, who started the company. And I met you actually, I believe, when you were a teenager.
Mhm.
And then, of course, many years later, now Erin runs some of the trips, and as well as Chris, because I went to the Galapagos with you both that you ran that trip, right? I think, Chris, we were talking that's in 2003.
23.
23, yeah, sorry, 23. Thank you. And I have to say, because I met her at a young age, it's not like there was any magnetic moment. However, Erin, if you recall, when we were in the Galapagos, at one point there was a bathroom stop. And of course, when you're on a trip and you're out somewhere where there's not a lot of bathroom places, you run to the bathroom, you say, okay. And I came out, I was the first one. And Erin was just standing at the gas station pump looking at me funny. And honestly, I felt this, let's call it a pull, like my magnetic moment with Erin. I walked up to you and I said, whatever you need, the answer is yes. Right, Erin?
That's exactly what it is. Yes.
And I think you had a favor to ask of me, correct? What was that?
Yeah. I had a favor. I was discussing a situation that was happening that we needed to maybe move somebody around, and we needed to say, okay, we have one space available. Who do we think would be most willing to do this? And I talked with my team, and my team was like, I think Stacy's the way to go. I was like, okay, let me talk to her. And so exactly like what you said, I knew that I had to corner you so that I could have this one-on-one conversation. And literally I walked up and I was like, so, and you go, yeah, whatever it is, I'll do it. I said, you don't even know what it is yet that I need. And you're like, but that's okay. You know that I'm the person who will do it. If you need me to be flexible, if you need me to jump in and help with something, I was like, oh, I love you.
Right. So, so we've had other moments before, but I think this was more the, I'm going to say it, this is why I call it magnetic moments. What draws someone to someone and you just know. And I'm sure lots of other people out there listening are saying, God, I would love that magnetic moment with so many people.
Well, and it's funny because even in that situation, like we had the magnetism literally, like we looked at each other's eyes and you're just like, yeah, I'm in. But we knew that we could go to you because you had had other magnetic moments with other people within the company. And so we just knew that, you're the person to go to if you need to be a little flexible, if you need a little bit of extra help on the sidelines. So it wasn't just me, it was something that other people have felt as well.
That's really sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So now I'm going to turn this over to the two of you. I do want to hear a little bit about some magnetic moments. It could have been when you first met, it could be later on, but let's start a little bit. How did the two of you first meet?
So we met midway through sophomore year of college. I had actually, over winter break, decided to go on a birthright trip with a bunch of other Ohio State people. I think we're 34 from Ohio State total on the bus. And in that group was Erin's best friend and sorority roommate, Lauren. And Lauren and I somehow instantly just hit it off. Like we connected. We had a magnetic moment. And like
Right.
Lauren could literally talk to the wall in front of her and be really happy. And so she spent most of the time talking at me, and like kind of just brought me along as her friend. And I was like, okay, let's go. And so then during the trip, she's like, you have to meet my roommate Erin. You really like her. She's really tall. She's Jewish, like all these things. And I had a girlfriend at the time. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, when we hang out back home, I'll meet her. Like, it'll be great. And so we get back from the trip. My girlfriend actually breaks up with me a few days after getting back. And then when the
Not my,
semester, yeah, that had
Not
nothing to
your
do with the
fault.
trip, nothing. But a few days after the trip, the semester started, or the quarter started. We were still on quarters, and I decided, like, our mutual friend now, Lauren, invited me over, and I remember meeting Erin in her dorm room. She's wearing little tiny shorts and a little tiny tank top, and she was like super shy and quiet. And so that's how we first met, and it was all because of our mutual friend Lauren.
I am now no longer shy, nor do I wear tiny little tank tops.
She sometimes still wears tiny little things.
Shorts, yes, tank tops, probably not.
Or maybe just for Chris.
Yeah.
I remember the story very similarly. Um, you know, Lauren did this birthright trip. She came home, and same thing. As soon as she came home, I met this guy. You have to meet him. You have to talk to him. I know that your top two credentials for someone that you're interested in are tall and Jewish, and he checks both of those boxes. And I was like, okay, cool. We're off to a good start.
Wait, so that's it. You just had two criteria.
I mean, those were the top two
Okay.
criteria.
Okay, the top two.
There's other things on the list, but those were the two most important things to even open the door. So similar thing, she said, you need to talk to him, you need to talk to him, even if you're not interested in dating anybody, just you're really gonna like him, you're really gonna, hit it off. And he's one of my great friends now, and I think you'll really enjoy him too. And you came in the room, and Chris was just kind of like, hey, it's nice to meet you. I heard a lot about you. And I think I probably said the same thing. Like, Lauren's been telling me a lot about you too. And I think in my dorm room, did I have like the little drapes around the bed? Do you remember
I
that?
remember the beds being really high.
Lauren's was even higher.
Yeah.
Her bed was like here, and my bed was there. So I made like these little drapes. And so it's like, hey, just come over and talk. And I think instantly we just had a lot in common, and we had a lot to talk about. And I felt drawn to him in a lot of different ways. But one of the primary ones was he was just really easy to talk to. So I think that was one of our magnetisms to each other. We had a lot of overlap, and we had a lot of shared experiences that we could discuss, but just getting to know each other was really fun. But we didn't start dating immediately. We both kind of liked each other, and then he was dating someone, and then I was dating someone, and the whole sorority and the whole fraternity both knew that we liked each other, but we decided to make it really challenging and confusing. And we didn't actually start dating, did you know, Stacy, until after we graduated.
So help me understand. You have a mutual friend who says, I have someone for you, I have someone for you. Chris, you're no longer dating someone, right? What did you two ever discuss and say, wow, there was a magnetic moment, but forget about it.
So I think I had like terrible time reading Erin, but also just women in general. So like if I wasn't picking up like if she was interested, she was like it was easy to talk to. She invited me to a date party. Um and I was like I just wasn't picking up on her signs. And so I thought like, all right, like she's having a good time. But like just in a friends kind of way. I didn't want to make her uncomfortable. I try to be very like aware of feeding off of someone else's energy that they're bringing.
But here's the thing too, like I was very good at flirting, but then I was also very scared of like what it meant next. And so I would be having fun and flirting, and then just kind of like pump the brakes.
Oh,
So he was reading it correctly, but then I was also sending mixed signals.
gotcha.
And so I think, yeah, I think just moments happened. It wasn't the right timing for us to be connected in that way. we were able to build like foundation of other things of, going for late night walks to get ice cream from UDF, or
We'd walk to class together.
yeah, meet up at the corner and walk to class together in the morning. So it was different things like that of having real conversations. And so, eventually when the time was right, it did work out. But I think we had to experience other things before we could be connected in that way.
Gotcha. So what brought you then to the after graduation? What were those, whether magnetic moments or whatever moments you want to call them, that brought you together in a more romantic sense?
So I was living in Atlanta after we graduated, and Chris was living in Columbus still at the time. And I was like, hey, why don't you come down and visit me in Atlanta? And so you drove down that first time, right? You put his two dogs in the car and drove the
10 and a half
10 and
hours.
a half hours down to Atlanta.
10.5 hours.
And he did this drive eventually many times, and the whole side of his arm was sunburned and the side of his face because he had his arm out the window the whole time so the dogs could stick their head out. And so I would make him a little care package with sunscreen. But what I like to say is he came as my best friend and then he left as my boyfriend. So we did have magnetic moment. Are you okay if I share it?
Sure.
So, he was, it's a surprise. We had hung out in Atlanta for maybe a day and a half or so. And then that night he like kissed me on the shoulder and said good night. And I go, don't you think we should have kissed by now? And he's like, do you think we should have kissed by now? And I was like, yeah, I do think we should have. And it was like so awkward and uncomfortable in a very Erin situation. Okay. And I was like, well, that was the moment. And I think the next day we were taking the dogs for a walk. And he's like, when I'm leaving, are we together? And I said, I would like for you to be my boyfriend if you would like for me to be your girlfriend. And you said, I love you.
Wow.
The next day.
Probably.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful.
Yeah, we were just walking around Atlanta. And so before he left, he said, I love you. And I said, I love you back because we had such a long time to get to know each other as people and as friends. And we had probably had a handful of challenging moments before then. And we were able to figure it out and communicate. People were rooting for us because all of our sororities people and fraternity people had seen what was happening in the background. And they're all like, finally, that only took 2.5 years.
That is
There was a number of magnetic moments, I think.
I think
that,
for me, it was, I think it was the conversations that we had prior to me going. Just we would talk all day on GChat.
I'm an instant messenger first.
AOL instant messenger.
Yeah.
But that was like, and then once we became professionals, we moved to Gmail. So we would talk all day on GChat and things like that. And it was just like the days would go so quickly because we'd be talking the whole time. And I don't really like people. And so like to find someone like when I like someone and they're like, it means it's pretty big deal. Like, because they're like, oh, they're not silly or, dumb like other humans. This one's actually kind of cool. And so, Erin, she was always interesting. She kept me on my toes, and her toes. She would say silly things. She loved to she always still does love to tell stories. So, I was drawn to her for all those different things. And so those came up through all those conversations. So like when I did see her on that first trip, it was like we had been together for much longer than, those few moments of that weekend.
yeah. I was just on a singles group call last weekend, And there was this one gentleman who brought up and said, I don't know, like I want to date, but maybe I think I'm just better off being friends first. I know he's going to love the story. He's just going to love it. But I think it's interesting because several of us, he had asked several of us for advice. And we had said, don't go in just saying it's friends first, just see how it goes. And for the two of you, it was, in essence, set up as potential romance. And then it just fell into the friends because of the communications, etc. So I think this will make a lot of people who listen to this just feel more comfortable. Like there is a chance, and there's an opportunity sometimes too to make a gesture, even if it's an awkward gesture, to say, well, should we kiss differently or something?
Look, it was the gesture I needed because obviously the signs that she had been throwing my way previous, I wasn't picking up on. I was pretty clueless apparently. So that's what was needed. And honestly, that's how I am as a person. Like I prefer to be more direct and and have it out there rather than, dance around it. But it was it was awkward, but also what I needed.
Yeah. Now, you guys have been married for several years now. So
15.
what other, yeah, I'm going to say several, because I do know a little bit more about the two of you. So have you had any more magnetic moments since? Maybe bring you in closer.
I mean, for sure, we've had so many things that we've experienced together. So whether it's, we have two sons and being parents is challenging and fun and rewarding. But we've just had, I can remember like looking across the playground when the kids are playing. We just like look at each other and we know what each other is thinking. And, um, I still feel those sparks and they're still fun for me. And when we travel together, when we have those kinds of experiences, just getting to do really cool things as a couple. And then looking back on them, we went to Joshua Tree about a year and a half ago, something like that.
For my 40th birthday.
Yeah. So just doing that and exploring it, and we would just kind of look at each other like, this is such a cool thing that we're doing. And we've talked about it a lot since then. We just went to Utah a couple months ago, and the same thing, like we are still getting to know each other in what the other person is into or is liking at that moment, because we're each still changing along the way. And I think it's that we're learning and growing into ourselves as individuals, but also as a couple. And so finding out what works for us. But I think there's a lot of little moments that we have and we share, and it's still sparkly and it's still magnetic.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more simple. Like example, last weekend we were at Hershey and I was using the bathroom at our Airbnb, and this door would not shut all the way. So it was mostly shut and then just started to open while I was midstream. And so I pushed it closed to what I thought was closed, and it started opening again. And so I kicked it this time, trying to close it. And yet again, like each time it was like almost, and then no, it would open again.
5 times.
And Erin is just cracking up in the other room. And I get back into bed and she's still dying laughing. And like for me, that was like a magnetic moment. It was like there was nothing to it. I was peeing and like we're just laughing, and there's so much humor in the moment. It's more, it's like it's raw. And so those are more magnetic moments to me. And like, there'll be times where we're driving and she'll say the same thing that like I'm thinking about, like, why is that ball on that? Like whatever, something completely random that we both notice, that we're both in tune with, that she says it, I'm thinking it, and it happens all the time. And like those, just being on that wavelength and that weird connectedness are those moments for me at times.
That's beautiful. So let me ask you one last question. So, Erin, I started this off saying how I knew you, right? So it's through the singles travel. It's amazing journeys. And of course, then Chris, even though I've known about you, Chris, for years, I actually met you on that Galapagos trip. So talk to me a little bit about your business and how the two of you are able to keep those magnetic moments going, because now you're taking care of, sometimes I think on that trip there was 18 single people, but on other trips there's 30 to 40 or plus single people. How do you keep it going when you're also managing single people as a married couple?
Um, so I think because we work so well together as a team, we're able to do these trips. So, we could walk in and we're saying there's 25 Jewish singles on this trip, and some of them know each other and some of them don't. And our job is to really, in essence, create that magnetism between other people. It's community building, and it's making sure that people feel comfortable with each other and get to know each other and have these shared experiences. And travel, I think, really brings people together a lot. So we work really well together in that, maybe I'll be doing something over here and I'll throw him a task and he's like, got it, on it. And he can go and do whatever it is while I'm still retaining the place that I have to be. But he, as much as he says that he doesn't like humans, he is really good at fostering relationships and just having fun with people. So it doesn't have to be all 25 or 50 or 100 people, but like you guys did, you would sit down and have a conversation or play a
Mhm.
card game or whatever it is. So you're really good at fostering relationships with individuals and small groups. Um, because I like to storytell and ring lead sometimes, maybe I'm doing the bigger group things and he's doing the smaller, but we do these travel experiences and then we get to go home and say like, wow, that was awesome. Not only did we see these amazing places and do these really cool things, but we met these people like you, Stacy. So, you said, can we do the podcast? And I
Yeah.
asked Chris, Stacy Kornhauser wants to do a podcast. He's like, yeah, cool, I'm in.
Thank you, Chris. Because
Yeah.
once he said, I don't like people, I'm like, I feel very fortunate. Thank you.
He likes you, so you're good.
Thank you.
But it's so fun to see, um, like how we started as friends and then it developed into something else. We like within our groups, we can see these friendships developing, and whether or not they turn into something romantic, it's just these connections that are being built, and you see this magnetism that is happening and these special moments that are happening between people, so that when you're coming home from a trip and people say like, how was it, you don't even have to tell them these places were so cool, but then you have these people that you get to talk about too, and you have these friends that you can then travel with into the future, and it's just this amazing community that we're building that we're very proud of, but we're also really happy to be a part of.
Yeah. I have to tell you, you mentioned something that reminded me. I remember being on a trip. It was New Year's 2007 to 2008. Truly remember that. And I remember coming home from the trip and I got home in the morning and I was still wide awake. Jet lag had not yet hit me. And I went to go visit my mother and tell her all about the trip. And we're having a lovely lunch with my sister. And after I'm telling her all about the trip, and the two of them are laughing at me, not with me, at me. I go, what's so funny? They said, we didn't hear one thing about where you went. You could have been sequestered with 50 other people in a hotel room. That's literally everything you told us. Like it was all about the people and doing this together, doing that together, etc. So it's funny how you said that, how you said something similar to that before, and it brought back that memory. So thank you.
Yeah, sometimes people be like, and wait, where did you go? You're like, oh, great. I can tell you about that too.
Yeah, so thank you. So guys, thank you so much. Erin, Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time. And I'm glad that you shared those magnetic moments and some of those fun stories. So
Thank you
thank
for
you.
having me.
Oh, anytime. And Erin, I think I will see you in February.
I look forward to it. You better bundle up.
I'm ready. We're going to Finland, folks. Thanks.